Today marks the 30th anniversary of the killing of South African Communist Party leader Chris Hani. The SACP said it would use today's anniversary of the struggle icon's killing to push for an inquest into the circumstances of his death. Party Secretary-General Solly Mapaila says they have so far accumulated 20,000 signatures in support of the call in his address earlier today at the Thimas Nkobeni Memorial Park in Elsburg. And questions arise as to why it's taken so long to get any traction on this enduring call, not only from Chris Hani's party, but also from his family. Legal analyst Mpumelelo Zikhalala joins us now to explain the process of an inquest with specific reference to the Hani matter. Good evening to you and welcome, Mpumelelo. Do we have a well-established and vibrant inquest act for just such matters?
Good evening to you and also to your viewers. Yes, we do. In fact, it simply says if you have any information that could assist law enforcement agencies in investigating a matter, you must come forward and say, this is what I have. Can you go and investigate this matter? And if on their side they're not willing to do so, then you can even go to court and say to the court, can you please reopen this particular case? I think there's something that was not followed properly. There have been particular cases, especially which are more on the political side, that have been reopened, and the inquests have had to be started from scratch. So there's nothing on this side that will stop the law enforcement agencies or the Hani family from going to court, or even the SACP from going to court and saying, can you please force the South African Police Service to re-look into this matter, and maybe they can find something else or new information, especially if they say we have new information on our hands, and we still believe that there are other individuals that should be brought to book about this matter.
Just take us back into history a little bit, Mpumelelo, in terms of what the former NDPP, Vusi Pikoli, once said.
He once said, which was information which was received today when Mrs. Hani was doing a speech. He said that we have written to the former head of the NBA, and he simply said, provide me with new information that I'll be able to open the inquest, which is a fair question if you're in the position of the NDPP. But at the end of the day, you still have to go in and say, let me open my doors. If you have any information that you might have, let's go and re-look into this matter. Maybe if we give the docket to a new investigative officers which are going to look at it with fresh eyes, they might find back with something more information. But I think the most appropriate thing to do would have been to send this matter back for re-investigation so that the family can be satisfied that indeed all the corners of the investigations have been done and dusted, and the information that they have and the perpetrators that have been successfully prosecuted are indeed the ones that pull the trigger. What I would think, though, from the Hani family would be to say, we want to know the actual motive of engaging in this type of act. What has motivated you, Mr. Wallace, to act in the manner in which you have acted? You have no interest whatsoever in Mr. Hani. So there's got to be something more. And that's the part and process in which the new investigation would have been able to establish. And if there's no information taken from the SACP members, I think it's only then where they could have been able to explore it.
I want to come back to what Mrs. Hani, Chris Hani's widow, had to say in that memorial service today. But given the steps that you outline, it seems to be pretty straightforward, quite practically possible. Why do you think this matter has been left where it is?
I think maybe it's a lack of, let's call it political will, and the will to say, I want as the South African Police Service, members of the public to be satisfied in the manner in which we've been able to do our work. There's no harm which is going to be suffered if you reopen an investigation, especially in an investigation where a person is going to say, I have new information. Can you then explore this particular information that I have? Go and investigate it and then come back, and then we'll take it from there. But on the same side, we cannot leave out maybe the SACP and Mrs. Hani in terms of saying, if we do not get a reprieve in any request that you've done in any public institution in South Africa, you can always go to the courts. In this case, you even have the IPID in terms of saying, this is not the conduct in which the South African Police Service is supposed to act in. Can you look into that particular matter? If that fails, then go to court and say to court, can you look into this matter and force them to reopen the inquest, in which they've done a number of other political cases before. So going to court and forcing the police services to re-look at this particular matter could have been an option which could have been there. My only worry, though, is that if you wait up until it's too late before you engage in those other activities, the quality and the quantity of the evidence is going to be compromised. People are going to die with very important information, and documentary evidence is going to be lost, and which could have been used to successfully prosecute those individuals that are involved. The mere fact that you are dealing with a high-profile political individual does not diminish the fact that when you go to court and you want to find someone liable, they have to be found guilty beyond reasonable doubt. And all the information and evidence that would require still needs to meet the test that will be able to secure the conviction. So the lesser the quality and the quantity of the conviction, of the evidence that you have, that's where we are going to have a problem, which is why we need to act fast.
And that's where the concern is, that the clock runs out on, as you say, any available evidence. And speaking of evidence, Mrs. Hani said today that, you know, there seemed to have been, at least from her vantage point, prima facie, or at least some preliminary evidence about a second shooter being in her garden. And she spoke about, you know, different things like the angle and the different angles from which potential shots might have come. And that sounds, you know, like quite a strong thing to say. Could that be a foray into a new application?
Definitely. All that you need for this matter to be reactivated is to say to Mr. Hani, please come to us. Let's put what your concerns are in a proper affidavit. Then the affidavit is going to be sent over to an investigating officer. And the investigating officer is well trained to look into that particular evidence. Accident or reconstructors or crime scene reconstructors could then be called in to then say, what's the probability of what Mr. Hani is saying being actually true? If that's the case, then let's go in and try and reenact and find more information that could be there. You can even use new technology which is available now, and try and check whether you can be able to get or extract information that would have not been able to be found at that stage in 1994 or even earlier. So there are a number of things that can be there for this investigation to take place, which is why it's a bit puzzling as to why the law enforcement agencies are not taking up whatever Mrs. Hani is saying, and why has she, or even with the SACP, have rested on information which is so crucial and not taking it to court. Because if you are failed by your own institution, the only place in which you can run to and you'll be able to get the justice that you are looking for is the court. So you must go to court whenever you feel hard done or not being looked after by our own institutions.
Mpumelelo Zikhalala, thank you for that. We will have Solly Mapaila, the General Secretary of the SACP, on the program a little bit later on, and we'll put some of these suggestions and ideas to him then. Thank you very much for your time.